Bum, 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 bum. That music is going to become a familiar theme throughout many households in Ohio as the Buckeyes start on Saturday against the Hoosiers on the road. A little bit of a tricky game. Tony there. I'm here. Andy, we're going to be talking a little Buckeyes football. Tony, I'm going to lead off with this message I've been monitoring for a while. This, to me, is one of the most unique Ohio State seasons I can remember being in 44 years on this planet. The Ohio State Buckeyes are figured to win the national championship. Yet, there are questions abound. Can they beat Michigan? Who is their quarterback? And what to think of Ryan Day? It's been a circle of this all offseason. So I'll lead off there to you. Do any of those apply, or do you have a different theme as Ohio State heads into the season and starting in Bloomington?
Those are definitely the biggest ones. To go this late in the camp without having a quarterback started, I mean, it brings a little bit of concern, but with the
Right.
talent that's in the room, it doesn't seem like it should be the end all be all for the season, but there's a lot of question marks there. You don't have CJ Stroud. You don't have one of these guys that you've seen before. So that could be something that potentially derails the season. And then the coaching, Ryan Day's been great except against Michigan. If you take out Michigan, I think he's lost 2 of his 6 games there. So he's lost one Big Ten game other than, actually, no, I don't think he's lost to a Big Ten opponent other than Michigan. So he's done great, but he needs to do well in that game. They need to do well in that game. And the quarterback is an interesting situation because there's talented guys, but not experienced guys.
Yeah, I'll pick up there. I think this quarterback situation is murky. I don't think it's bad. I think it's murky. From what I can tell and reading through all the tea leaves, I think McCord's they're going with because they're most comfortable with. The higher ceiling seems to be Brown and that gentleman Lincoln. Those two guys seem to have much higher ceilings than McCord. But they're going with McCord because I think he's most ready to go. And people can take that for whatever it's worth. What I found bizarre about the quarterback situation, Tony, kind of what he's alluding to, it's just not been – Ohio State, this would usually be a very hyped thing, and day-to-day you get updates on quarterback. There really wasn't. Like from all these different sites that I kind of read into, there really wasn't a lot of banter about quarterback. So it just makes one wonder as you head into the regular season. That's what I think, at least. I mean, do I think Devin Brown's going to play at some point? Of course. Do I think this will be okay at the end of the day? I actually do, yes. I actually have much more of a concern about another position group and not this one. That to be said, it's not clear either.
No, it's definitely not clear. Like I said, there's talent there, and with the receivers you got on the roster, it's going to make their lives a lot easier no matter who's back there. And Brown was fifth in his class in 2021, 2022, and McCord was eighth in his class. So it's not like these guys are slouches by any means, but it's weird that these are such high prospects, but we're not seeing all that. Oh, Devin Brown with a big throw, and maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's Ryan Day trying to hold back what they're doing and give them some sort of an edge if they're not 100% confident in quarterbacks like years past. But definitely has been a weird fall camp.
Very weird, but there's no weirdness about wide receiver.
No.
And all the years I've watched, and gosh, you can go through Boston and Galloway and Glenn, who played many years for the Patriots. And I mean, seeing all these different guys, Carter, all these different guys kind of come through the program. I actually think Martin Emerson Jr. is the best wide receiver I've ever seen play for Ohio State. I think he is that talented. I think he's that good. I actually think, Tony, he has a chance of winning the Heisman Trophy. And Abuka's right there. I really do. I think that's how good the wide receivers are. They are that elite. It's not a joke.
Yeah, it's kind of weird and unbelievable when you say it out loud, but even not just this year, last year, the year before, when a guy like CJ Stroud actually has worse wide receivers in the NFL than he did in college, that is unbelievable to think about. And it's the same case for whoever's taking snaps this year. You're not going to go to an NFL team drafted early on and have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Ibuka. That's not going to happen. So it's a luxury for their quarterback, and it should be fun to watch because Marvin Harrison Jr. is special. And the other guys, they've got a lot of talent too.
They really do. The Buckeye oozes with talent. If you watch any of these guys who are on the ground, whether it's Cleveland.com or Letterman Row or some of these other guys, they just can't stop gushing even past those two. And then you get to running back, and there's been several columns, not just one. Best running back room since X. A lot of expectations, and TreVeyon Henderson deserves it. I'm a defender of TreVeyon. The gentleman got hurt last year, and he was actually up for a Heisman debate at times. He is that good when healthy. They are just so loaded at the weapons, and actually Corver too. I think Corver and some other offenses would be a weapon. It's just there's too many other players that needed to get the ball at Ohio State. So because of that, I think it takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback. I think everything is there in offense. Now, Tony and I wrote an article today. It's on believeintheland.com. You can check out some things. Tony, I could tell, and I don't want to speak for Tony, I get the feeling you're a little more nervous about the O-line than I am.
Yeah, it's the position with the most turnover for sure. You lost 3 guys who did really well for them last year. Returning the 2 guards, Donovan Jackson and Matthew Jones, is huge for the run game more than anything. The new center, who hasn't really played much, seems like he should be good, but the concerns are definitely with the tackles, especially with the uncertainty at quarterbacks. The transfer from San Diego State did not really play that well last year. He had his moments, but he didn't put together a great season in the pass game or the run game. And same thing with at right tackle this year. It's slated to be Josh Fryer, and he kind of bounced around last year as like that 6'7" lineman. When he played guard, he was atrocious. He had a couple of okay looks at tackle, but for those to be your 2 edge protectors with a new quarterback, Ohio State, to me, when I think of the quarterback, I think of C.J. Stroud sitting back there with all day to throw. I don't know with these tackles if that's going to be the case.
All what Tony's saying is fair. This is where I am actually, I'm just going on faith. Fryer has been getting great grades from people who are on the ground. Has he improved? We're going to see against Indiana. But from what people are telling and saying, like, they think he looks really good. I know the other gentleman at left tackle, there's a bit more of a question mark there. I just think, Tony, they'll be okay. I just think they're going to be able to figure out. I think there's way too much talent at that position. And they have 2 guards who one of them in particular is considered maybe to be an All-American. So I think they'll be able to figure it out. But Tony's right, especially from the left tackle position, because Fryer's playing right tackle. So for what it's worth, that's a lot easier position in football, as we all know. So they should be okay, but there are some question marks there. Now, flipping to the other side of the ball. Before we get to the secondary, which I'm not going to be so kind about, I think the front layer of the line and linebackers could be the best I've ever seen maybe at Ohio State. They are really, really talented. Eckenberg is a talented player. JT, boy, if you watch the Penn State game, you're probably thinking, gosh, this guy probably had a big year. He disappeared in some other games, so if he's more consistent, I think he's there. Sawyer, who came on, I like where this line is. I like where the linebackers are. I think this, and the thing I like about him most, Tony, a lot of seniors, a lot of SRs, not a lot of young kids. So I actually think the front 7 linebackers, D-line, or front 6, depending on what the Buckeyes do, I think they're there. I really do. I think that front 6 is really there. They're going to be very, very good.
I agree. JTT and Sawyer as your 2 edge rushers, that's as good of a duo you can get without having a Boza in there. Like that is unbelievable. And your returning experience on the interior D-line for guys that played well last year. I don't think the run defense is going to be like otherworldly and they're going to be shutting down like big time running guys, but I really think they're going to get after the passer. And as we all know, that's the most important thing to do in modern football.
There's a lot of people who are high on defensive tackle Hall. I'm not so sure. But if you read into some, Athlon had a really high article on Hall this year. They think he's going to have a breakout season. Time will tell. But I agree with Tony. I think passing-wise, and this is more of a passing game, as we all know, they're there. And I think they're going to tighten up on running game. Now, to that secondary. I just don't know. Denzel Burke has gotten a lot of high remarks from people on the ground. Tony, I got to see it to believe it. I thought the corners for Ohio State, I'm being blunt, stunk. I think and this is Phil Steele. Other people saying the same thing I am. I just think this secondary has a long ways to go. I know there's a lot of excitement about the safety, but I'll be honest. I think those 5 spots, whether it's 3 cornerbacks and 2 safeties, Tony, I think the defensive line linebackers are going to carry a lot of this defense this year. I do.
Yeah, they're going to have to get to the quarterback fast because nobody really pops out in terms of like, oh, that's your lockdown coverage guy, not in man-to-man, not in zone. They got a lot of like younger guys who haven't played a lot that are going to step into a bigger role, but it's tough to just assume they're going to make that leap. Like, yeah, you'd like to believe that, and I'm sure a couple of them will, but to just flat out say, yep, they're going to play better than they did in their 100 snaps last year, like you can't just bank on that. I do think the 2 transfer DBs they got might end up seeing the field if things start to go wrong because they both seem to have pretty good years at Syracuse and Ole Miss last year.
Yes.
So that could help for sure.
I think, to Tony's point, it's a work in progress. I get the feeling the quarterback will shake itself out one way or the other. I think cornerbacks are going to see some moments where they're going to be fans are going to be holding their heads because they really struggled last year. I thought there was moments they got away with at Penn State. I thought there's other moments in other games where they won where they got away with it, and we all know what happened against Michigan and Georgia. So I think those things just come to mind. And again, forget Tony and I. Phil Steele, who I love and really respect, you had them in the mid-50s. I mean, this is a group that has a lot of questions coming into the season. So we'll have to see. All right. The kicker, I don't really get into as much about Ohio State. I don't think kicker compared to the pros is as big. And the reason why I say that is extra points are a lot shorter, but they have a new kicker in town. I don't know how much you want to talk about that. All said and be done, I think Ohio State's right around that 10-11 win mark. I actually wouldn't be surprised to go 11. I actually think, because I've seen the Irish play, I think that game in South Bend is going to be very hard for the Buckeyes. And in college football, I believe history actually plays a lot. And why I say that is it's been over almost 90 years since Ohio State has lost to Notre Dame. And if you don't think that rankles the Irish, you don't know college football. That rankles the Irish a lot.
Yeah.
So I see them losing. I think they're going to lose that game. Everywhere else, though, I think it's right there. And truthfully, by the time Michigan happens, we're going to find out a lot more about the secondary, quarterback, and I think that's a 50-50 game. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, that Notre Dame game is going to be tough. After that week 0 game they had against Navy, I mean, it's Navy, so it's not some top contender, but the running game looked dominant. The running back looked dominant, and that's right now on defense. One of the weaknesses kind of is like the run game might not. So, because that's what obviously Michigan these last 2 years have made a living on, just being bigger and stronger and more physical up front. So if Notre Dame kind of follows that recipe, which I think they will try, it could be a tough game. It definitely won't be a cakewalk to go in there. And with Sam Hartman, the new quarterback, he's definitely going to test that secondary, which there are concerns about. So probably in the realm of 1 or 2 losses like normal. Definitely, I'd say they're going to drop one of those 2 games. We'll see, though.
We will see. The one thing, though, I know I'm not trying to speak for Tony, but I think I will. There's no question about the weapons. Ohio State has weapons at big positions. So because of that, they are in the national championship hunt, just because of that alone. All right, so I say 11-1. Tony, what do you say? 10-2, 11-1?
I'm thinking 10-2. I'll say 10-2.
There we go. Read Tony and I's article. It's going to be coming out here shortly, or maybe out now as you're watching this. Go to BelieveInTheLand.com to check it out. Buckeyes start on Saturday. I think they win. Don't know if I would take the points, but I think that's a lot for a road game.
That's a lot of points.
To start off the year. All right, Andy and Tony signing off. Be back on all year for Buckeyes football.